Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we will be starting with gold and noble metal alloys. This is a continuation of the topic of metallurgy. Now, starting with the learning objectives, first of all, you are expected to know what is the role of pure gold in dentistry, the different applications of gold, how is it manipulated at the chair side, what are the different types of gold available, the general properties of gold filling, what are the pros and cons of gold filling, and finally, how can the properties of gold be optimized? So let's start with the definition of noble metals. What are noble metals? These are the elements with the good metallic surface that can retain their surface in moist air and have resistance to oxidation, tarnish, and corrosion during heating, casting, soldering, and use in the oral cavities. So basically, they are those metals that are resistant to both corrosion and oxidation in moist air. And why is it important that they remain resistant to both of these phenomena? Well, in the oral cavity, as you know, due to saliva and a very harsh environment, uh, it is important that the, the prosthesis or restoration that we are placing in remains stable and does not corrode or degrade over time. Now let's look at pure gold. Pure gold is too soft to maintain its shape under the forces of mastication. However, this can be overcome by two ways, by either cold working or simply alloying it with another metal. So by cold working, basically, as we studied in the previous lecture, cold working is the plastic deformation or shaping of a metal at room temperature. So because gold is very malleable and ductile, it can be readily cold worked, and we can use this characteristic in the restoration of teeth using pure gold fillings. So basically, we will be studying about how gold is manipulated um, for direct fillings. At two pieces of gold, pure gold, if they're pressed together, metallic bonds are formed at the points of contact. And that is why gold can easily be cold worked at room temperature. And this is also called cold welding or cold working. This is basically an example of cold working. And this kind of gold is cohesive because when the two sheets of gold are pressed together, they can adhere to each other. So pure gold can be used uh, for this purpose, and for the cast restorations where we need strength and better mechanical properties, we use alloys of gold. Now, clinically, gold filling can be of two types: a properly placed, good direct gold filling. Since centuries, it has shown to have excellent, long-lasting, and durable results. However, on the other hand, an improperly placed direct gold filling can have the following problems. It can lead to a poor quality restoration. It can have excessive leakage at the margins. It can undergo dislodgement, and it can also lead to post-operative sensitivity. So, how these are all the problems that can occur due to an improperly placed gold filling. This all means that this is a very technique sensitive material, and our manipulation of or handling of the gold filling should be perfect in order to avoid these problems. However, direct filling gold is rarely used in clinical practice nowadays because of various reasons, the main being the aesthetics and the cost of gold, and the fact that we have better restorative materials available nowadays. If you look at the historical background of gold, it has been used for jewelry in the Greek and Roman culture about in the 3000 BC. And cavities in teeth have been filled since earliest time with variety of materials. Tried to fill the tooth with almost everything imaginable on earth, ranging from stone chips, turpentine, resins, gums, metals, ivory, you name it, and it has been tried. So, who recommended the use of gold for filling cavitated teeth? Well, it was an Italian scientist called Giovanni, and he recommended gold leaf filling in 1483. And since then, in the United States, it became very popular in the 19th century. However, like I mentioned, that it is rarely used now because of the fact that it is very technique sensitive. The manipulation is time consuming, requires a lot of expertise, and obviously for the fact that gold has become so expensive that it's not cost effective anymore, and the patient demand is towards more aesthetic or tooth colored materials, and the gold color is not appealing anymore to patients. At the properties of pure gold. Pure gold is the noblest of all the dental metals, and really shows any kind of tarnishing or corrosion in the oral cavity. It is chemically inert or inactive and so not affected by air, heat, moisture or most of the solvents. It is most ductile and malleable of all the metals. It is so malleable it can be reduced in thickness, and that is why we can easily hammer it into any uh, desired shape, and because it is ductile it can easily be drawn into wires. The coefficient of thermal expansion is close to that of tooth, so there is no problem of any kind of dimensional change, and it produces excellent marginal integrity when it is used as a direct filling. So one of the major drawbacks of gold is that it is extremely soft, especially pure gold, but we can overcome that by cold working, by which the hardness has shown to increase from about 52 to 75 Vickers hardness number. So basically, we can use this property of gold to get the ideal mechanical properties. During the condensation process, which is basically one of the steps of manipulation of gold, and we will be talking about it in the next slides, uh, when we are condensing the gold foil pieces into the cavity, it is seen that by that process, because we are carrying it out by cold working or work hardening, the strength of the gold is increased. As I mentioned in the previous slides, that two pieces of gold are compressed together and they adhere to each other because they are cohesive. And this is also a kind of cold working method. And it is seen that during this process, the strength of the gold is increased. So this is achieved by cold working. Pure gold is an ideal dental restorative material for permanently preserving tooth structure in, however, non-aesthetic and low stress bearing areas. It is said to have one of the highest densities of all the elements of approximately 19.3 grams per centimeter cubed. Now, what are the clinical indications of gold? They can be used in incipient carious lesions, occlusal, buccal, and the lingual pit, class 2 lesions on the premolars and the molars, and class 3 in the mandibular interiors. I'm sure you all are familiar with the with GV Black's classification, class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they can be used in class 5 in the bicuspids and cuspids if aesthetics permit, and where there are areas of erosion. So it has limited use, mostly where there are low stress bearing areas and non aesthetic areas. But like I mentioned, it is no longer used for the filling purpose. So now, because better materials are available in the market. So what are the contraindications? Where is it suggested not to use gold? In very young and old patients, teeth with large pulp chambers, where there are periodontally weakened teeth, where economy is the limited factor, obviously when the patient is non-affording, in handicapped patients or non-compliant patients, and in root canal treated patients. So we have discussed the general properties of gold and their indications. Now it is very important to know the different types of the options or the different types of direct filling gold. They can be classified into two types, the foil type and the electrolytic precipitate or matte gold powder. Now the foil types are available in the forms of sheets, which may be cohesive or non-cohesive, ropes, cylinders, laminated and platinized, whereas the electrolytic precipitate matte gold powder may be further subclassified as matte, matte foiled and alloyed. Now after the classification of the direct gold filling, let's start with cohesive gold, which is a type of gold foil, and as the name suggests, cohesive, it means that basically if we place two gold foils on top of each other and apply pressure, they will join together or adhere to each other due to intimate atomic contact. So basically, cohesive gold is that form of gold which is essentially free of any surface contaminant and can be placed directly into the cavity. Because gold can attract gases and any absorbed uh, gases can prevent the intimate contact, we have to ensure that these have protective gas films such as ammonia. So this minimizes the absorption of other volatile substances and prevents the premature cohesion of sheets. So we don't want the sheets to cohere to each other before we place it into the cavity, and that is why the cohesive gold comes with a protective layer of ammonia. And this layer has to be removed first before placing into the cavity, and that is done by basically heating it. So once the foils are heated, they are placed into the prepared tooth cavity, and their pressure is applied, which will be studying when we go over the manipulation of gold, and that step is called condensation. So basically, we will condense the gold sheets into the cavity, and because they're cohesive, they will adhere to each other, and basically this is how we will keep building up our filling. Now, the other type of gold foil, which is the non-cohesive gold, it does not have any protective layer. So all the non-volatile contaminants like iron, sulfur, phosphorus, etc., are permanently deposited on the surface, and it cannot be driven away by heat. And so this gold loses its cohesive property. It does not cohere to its opposing sheet. So non-cohesive forms are used as starting materials, and then they can be worked more easily than cohesive forms. They are easy to manage, but they don't have good strength and hardness. That's why they are rarely used, and we tend to prefer the cohesive gold. Another type of gold foil is the platinized gold foil. In this, there is a sandwich of gold and platinum with the platinum content almost 15%. So one sheet of platinum foil is sandwiched between two sheets of gold, and then it is hammered to a thickness of number 4 of gold foil. Layers of gold and platinum are rolled over together so that there occurs a fusion between the two before the beating procedure begins. So, what is the advantage of platinum? It increases the hardness and wear resistance of the restoration, and it can be used in places where in places of stress concentration like the incisal edges and cusp tips. Now, how is gold foil manipulated? It is done by cold welding, which is, like I mentioned, a form of cold working. So, it is seen when two pieces of pure gold are pressed together, metallic bonds are formed at their point of contact, and the gold is welded together without the application of heat. An example is pure gold filling. And in this case, cohesive gold is used in the form of very thin gold sheets. So these are pictures of basically how gold foil is manufactured. It is by a process that's called gold beating. High purity gold is first passed through a series of rollers. Ribbons are formed, then they're further cut into smaller pieces and hammered until the desired thickness of gold is achieved, which for dentistry it is 0.001 millimeter. Moving on to the other classification of gold filling, which is electrolytically precipitated powder. And matte gold is basically electrolytically precipitated powder that is sandwiched between sheets of gold foil and then formed into strips and cut into the desired sizes. This is preferred over the gold foil because it is preferred for its ease in building up the internal bulk of the restoration, as it is easier to compact it and adapt it to the retentive portions of the prepared cavity. Now, the quality or the gold content of a dental alloy can be specified on two bases, the carat or fineness. I'm sure you have heard the term carat before. What does this specify? This is the gold content of an alloy based on parts of gold per 24 parts of the alloy. So we are talking about 24 parts of the alloy, that how much gold content is present. For example, 24 carat, you all are familiar with it. It is said to be pure gold, and that means that it contains 100% gold. Similarly, 22 carat gold, this is 91.67% gold, and so basically in this the alloy contains 22 parts pure gold and 2 parts of the other metal. So it's basically concerned with the amount of gold in per 24 parts of the alloy. Another way to determine the gold content is according to the fineness, and in this case, the fineness is basically the gold content in a noble metal alloy by the number of parts of gold per 1000 parts of alloy. For example, pure 100% gold has a fineness of 1000, 650 fine gold has a gold content of 65%. Fineness rating is said to be more practical a term than the carat, and fineness rating is 10 times the gold percentage in an alloy. The term carat and fineness are rarely used to describe the gold content of current alloys. However, in the case of gold alloy solders, this term has been used often. Now let's move on to the manipulation of gold foil filling. This is a chairside procedure. So there are basically two main steps when you carry out gold filling. First of all, you are required to do the degassing or desorption. And what we do is that we heat the foils to about 250 degrees in an electric furnace to remove any of the adsorbed grease or gases or impurities, because we want to enhance its cohesive properties so that they may cohere to each other. Then comes the cold welding or compaction. So what we do next is that we place these degassed gold foils into the prepared cavity, and the lack of surface oxide and other in the case of gold allows cold welding to occur. That is welding of increments together under pressure at room temperature rather than by melting. This is due to the cohesiveness of gold that the foils tend to cohere to each other, and we can build them up incrementally just by applying pressure at the mouth temperature without any form of external heat source. So there are basically two steps: degassing and cold welding or compaction. Now there are various methods of degassing or desorption. One is the open alcohol flame method, also called the peace method. In this, what we do is that we hold the gold foil in an open flame, which is basically 90% ethyl or methyl alcohol without any additives, and this is done in the clean blue flame. The gold foil is held with an instrument and heated over a clean blue flame of absolute alcohol, and this helps in getting rid of the adsorbed gases and any impurity present on the surface to achieve a good, clean, cohesive gold foil. The other method is the bulk method, in which we use a mica tray over the flame. A sheet of mica can be used over any type of flame and is usually used for heating bulk of gold foils. Maximally 5 minutes are allowed for any piece of gold to be heated on mica, and degassing of several gold pellets is possible at the same time due to this method. So after we are done with the degassing, the next step is the compaction or condensation. The pieces the of the degassed gold foils are placed in the prepared cavity and are cold welded under pressure by a suitable condensing instrument. If you can look at the picture below, this is basically a condenser by which we are condensing the individual gold foils one by one in increments within this prepared cavity, and because of their cohesive nature they are able to cohere to each other. Gold restoration is built up into a coherent mass by this cold welding technique. It's called cold welding because it's done at room temperature. The cohesion results from metallic bonding between overlapping increments of gold under the pressure of compaction. Just a clinical tip that the force of condensation must always be at 45 degrees to the cavity walls and floors. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that this is a very technique sensitive procedure and a lengthy one, and because we are doing the condensation in increments, it requires the gold atoms to be forced into intimate contact, and impurities of any sort must be avoided, otherwise they will interfere with the cohesion of the opposing sheets or foils. And we condense the foils one by one into the prepared cavity and continue doing so till we achieve the desired cavity form, and we proceed by further by finishing it and polishing it to a good shine and luster. During placement of each increment, the opposing foil becomes welded to the foil already placed below, and this way we keep building up the whole filling. So for the condensation process, automatic mallets or electrical condensers may be used, and these are special instruments used for this process. However, care must be taken not to overheat the filling, And tooth and supporting structures must be able to withstand the harsh treatment during condensation. We have to be very careful that we do not fracture the tooth or overheat it while carrying out these procedures. Marked heating can cause damage to the pulp. So, although this is a very lengthy procedure, at this stage you are not required to know the all the detail of this filling. You will be dealing with it in your final year in operative dentistry. We have just given you the basic points or a basic overview of how the gold foil is manipulated. The clinical steps are not very important. You just have to have a rough idea about it. So we've seen that the mechanical properties of the gold foil can be increased by cold working, and again it depends on the amount of cold working that is being carried out on the material. The degree of cold working or work hardening depends on the pressure applied during condensation. So basically when you're carrying out condensation, the amount of pressure that is applied and the length of time for which the material is condensed. Sandwich foils of gold and platinum are also available, which produce a condensed restoration with better physical characteristics. So, the advantage of platinized gold is that it can be used in the smaller class 2 restorations, which are basically stress bearing areas. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of the gold dental fillings. If we talk about the advantages, it is seen that because it is a noble metal and it is chemically inert, it is very corrosion and tarnish resistant. It possesses cold welding properties that allows it to be manipulated at room temperature because of its cohesive nature. It has adequate mechanical properties where the filling is surrounded by tooth substance, and when there is little or no opposing force, pure gold filling offers a very durable restoration, and it requires no luting agent or cement underneath the restoration. Now, clinically, gold filling can be of two types: a properly placed, good, direct gold filling. Since centuries, it has shown to have excellent, long lasting, and durable results. However, on the other hand, an improperly placed direct gold filling can have the following problems. It can lead to a poor quality restoration. It can have excessive leakage at the margins. It can undergo dislodgement, and it can also lead to post-operative sensitivity. So, how these are all the problems that can occur due to an improperly placed gold filling. This all means that this is a very technique sensitive material. So we've discussed pure gold and its application in dentistry. Let's move on to the casting gold alloys. So the dental gold casting alloys require that basically the noble metal should have at least 75 to 85% gold, and the remaining noble metals in the alloy could be platinum, palladium, iridium, ruthenium, or rhodium. Now we classify the casting gold alloys according to types from type 1 to type 4, and it is seen that from type 1 to type 4 the gold content or nobility decreases and it becomes harder. So basically type 1 is soft and the type 4 is extra hard due to solution and hardening effect of the alloying metal. This is basically a heat treatment that we carry out on the gold alloy so that its mechanical properties are enhanced. However, at the same time, the gold content or nobility is compromised. The type 3 and 4 can be further hardened by various other heat treatments. So let's look at the classification of the gold alloys. There are basically four types. Type 1 is the soft type and it is used for fabrication of small inlays class 3 and 5 restoration which are not subjected to great stress. These are easily burnishable or malleable and they can be easily given any shape. Then the type 2 are the medium alloys. They are used for fabrication of inlays subjected to moderate stress. For example, thick 3/4 crowns, abutments, pontics, full crowns, and soft saddle areas. Type 1 and 2 are usually referred to as inlay gold. Now moving on to type 3, which is the hard type, is used for the fabrication of inlays subjected to higher stress. Again, thin 3/4 crowns, thin cast backing, abutments, pontics, full crowns, denture bases, and short span fixed partial dentures. So basically, this means where when we talk about metallic dentures and the framework, we can use type 3. Type 3 alloys can be age hardened. Type 5 are the extra hard. Now they are used for fabrication of inlays subjected to very high stress, denture bases, bars and clasp, partial denture framework, and long span fixed partial dentures. So these are the the hardest of all the alloys, and that is why they're used in high stress areas, especially denture bases and the different parts of the dentures. So as you can see from type 1 to type 4, the hardness is increasing. And as mentioned in the previous slide, the nobility and gold content is decreasing and it is being replaced by other metal alloys. So let's discuss the casting gold alloys individually. According to ISO type 1, as I mentioned, it's the soft alloy. Low strength for casting subjects to very light stress, for example, inlays and small fillings. But those which are well supported by substance and do not have to resist large masticatory forces. And because they have high ductility because of the greater gold content, they can easily be burnished. Burnishing is basically a kind of finishing or polishing process which improves the marginal fit of the inlay and increases the surface hardness. Now type 2 is the medium or medium strength, and it's used for casting subject to moderate stress, for example in case of inlays and onlays. It has superior mechanical properties compared to type 2, and there is a slight decrease in the ductility due to the decrease in the gold content. Now the previous table in which all the types were shown would be better for memorizing and understanding both the application and the hardness or the softness of the gold alloys. Type 3 are the hard alloys, and they are used basically in areas where there is high stress, for example, onlays, context, full crowns, and saddles. So, we will be studying about saddles in prosthodontics. These are all parts of the partial denture. Used where there is less support from the tooth structure and there are high opposing masticatory stresses. Production of crowns and inlays for high stress areas such as class 2 cavities in molars, and again the gold content is decreasing, so as a result the mechanical properties are getting better, and they are being replaced by platinum or palladium, and this leads to a higher melting point which is beneficial when constructing components of bridges which are joined by soldering. And lastly, the type 4 alloys, which are known as the extra hard and extra high strength. Now, these are used where very high stresses are being produced, and they can be used in thin cross sections, for example, in the saddles, bar, clasped crown bridges, and partial denture frames. Partial dentures normally have clasps or other devices for retaining the denture, and base metal denture casting alloys have high value of modulus and are more satisfactory for producing connectors. So connectors and clasps and saddles, these are all components of partial denture, and in these cases we use the type 4 or the extra hard casting gold alloys. So let's look at the properties of casting gold alloys. On the left, you have type 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are looking at the hardness, the proportional limit, the strength, ductility, and corrosion resistance. If you can appreciate that from type 1 to type 4, the hardness, the proportional limit, and strength, which means the mechanical properties are increasing. However, the ductility and corrosion resistance is decreasing. Why? Because of the decreasing content of gold, which basically is contributing to the ductility and corrosion resistance. So the nobility is also decreasing from type 1 to type 4. During placement of each increment, the opposing foil becomes welded to the foil already placed below, and this way we keep building up the whole filling. So for the condensation process, automatic mallets or electrical condensers may be used, and these are special instruments used for this process. However, care must be taken not to overheat the filling, and tooth and supporting structures must be able to withstand the harsh treatment during condensation. We have to be very careful that we do not fracture the tooth or overheat it while carrying out these procedures. Marked heating can cause damage to the pulp. So although this is a so we've seen that the mechanical properties of the gold foil can be increased by cold working, and again it depends on the amount of cold working that is being carried out on the material. The degree of cold working or work hardening depends on the pressure applied during condensation. So basically, when you're carrying out condensation, the amount of pressure that is applied and the length of time for which the material is condensed. Sandwich foils of gold and platinum are also available, which produce a condensed restoration with better physical characteristics. So, The advantage of platinized gold is that it can be used in the smaller class 2 restorations, which are basically stress bearing areas. Now, in order to optimize the properties, there are a few heat treatments that we can carry out. You don't have to go into the detail of these heat treatments. So they would be basically just to increase or optimize the mechanical properties. And it is seen that heating the alloy to the temperature below the solidus temperature for a few minutes to achieve the maximum amount of diffusion of atoms results in the establishment of a homogeneous structure without melting. Ductility also increases after this homogenizing heat treatment, and gold alloys are heat treated either by softening or hardening. Now, a heat treatment known as solution hardening basically results in the increase in hardness when the nobility decreases, and this is due to solution hardening effect of the alloying metal present with gold, which basically forms the solid solution with gold in the alloy form. Now, the other heat treatments include the age hardening. In this, the alloy is treated to a temperature at which atomic diffusions are possible, and this is usually from 300 to 600 degrees. And this slow diffusion of atoms prevents the slip plane movement. Now, this, as a result, leads to increased hardness of the alloy. Example of age hardening is precipitation hardening. In this, the alloy solution is heated to below its solidus temperature, and this causes precipitation. And as a result, this leads to increased hardness and enhanced mechanical properties of the gold alloy. This is done in type 3 and type 4 casting gold alloys. If we want to enhance or optimize the mechanical properties, we can carry out this age hardening treatment. As I mentioned, these heat treatments, they're not very important for you at this stage. You should just know their names and what basically at the end we achieve by these heat treatments, which is simply the improvement in the mechanical properties. So that brings us to the end of today's topic, which was gold and the noble casting alloys. I hope it's all clear.